Next person, Dale Corpus. Dale Corpus, welcome to the stage. Yes, I'm gonna switch it. I'll switch it. Don't move.
All right, perfect. Thanks. Hey everybody, my name is Dale Corpus, and my topic today is leverage your time and grow your business. So the premise of this topic is how I used virtual assistants, multiples of virtual assistants to grow my business. So I've been involved in the mortgage and real estate industry since 2001, and I can tell you something about myself. I am a badass multitasker, a BAMT, not to be confused with a BAMF. So I am really good at operations and just processes and whatnot, and I can do things really fast and juggle things a lot at once. But to be honest with you, it saved me from having an assistant for a long period of time, but it also hindered my growth. I realized, knowing what I know now, back when I was younger, I know that a lot of the stuff that I was doing, I shouldn't have been doing. I was working more so a lot in my business versus on my business, and I felt like I was a hamster, running the wheel and keeping that wheel going, and the only way that wheel would go is if I was the one running in it. I didn't have anybody to back me up, and so I knew there had to be a different way because it wasn't sustainable. It was just me doing everything, and it was until later on that I finally decided to give real estate coaching a try in 2015, and I wish I just did it sooner, because I only knew what I knew at the time, but then it exposed me to better models, better blueprints of what other agents and teams were doing and whatnot, and I just knew I was like, why didn't I get an assistant like a decade ago? I ended up hiring my first assistant around 2015-ish. It was an in-person Bay Area-based assistant. She lived in Hayward. She was doing a career switch from teaching, and she was working and getting her real estate license. Found her on a job board and whatnot, and it worked out really well. She didn't know anything about the business, so I trained her from scratch. She started doing my contracts. She started talking to my online leads. Started, even showing homes for me. Started taking, just a lot of administrative things off my plate. It was really good. And then about 2.5 years later into it, she dropped the bomb on me. She said that she had to leave, or she was exploring another option because, as you guys all know, it's like expensive to live in the Bay Area. I was only paying her, a little bit over minimum wage. And so she was trying to see if she could make the numbers work with me, but I couldn't. I'm a small business owner. It just didn't make sense. So I didn't feel bad. We're still really good friends, but when she left, I was a little bit, I knew that having an assistant worked, but I was distraught because I was like, what do I do now? Because if I have somebody locally, this could happen again, and I put so much time and effort into training, this person. And I was like, I know that the idea of virtual assistants has been around, it's trending, and I thought, let's just kind of look into that. And so I'm Filipino American, so I was like, let's go back to the motherland. Let's see what's out. I know that Filipino virtual assistants are good, so I actually started looking over there. And in my research out of there, I found a lot of cool things. I don't know if you know this, but a lot of the folks that work for US-based companies out in the Philippines, you have to also realize that a lot of the folks in the Philippines, they all speak English. It's taught in the schools. But when they work for US-based companies, like say they work for Chase Bank or Citibank or at a call center, sometimes they're commuting. They have to go to an office. They got to dress up. It takes an hour and a half sometimes to go there, and they come back home. And I'm not sure if you know this, but that company probably pays them $2.50 to $3 an hour. And that's good money for them. Okay, so I was thinking about this, and I was like, if there was a way for me to look, knowing that I know that, and it's like I just did somebody that was like really smart that I could train from scratch, and if this person can do everything that my in-person assistant can do, but like that was not needing to be in person, this could turn into something. Because if I paid them more than what they were making at their job, and if I was a cool boss, they would want to stay with me for the long haul. Okay. And I was also thinking, well, what is there really to lose if I could pay this person, literally like $5 an hour, pour in their training and see if it works, because if this person works, I could probably hire another person, and my first assistant could train that other assistant, and so on and so forth. I could get a third and so on. and it took about, I want to say 3 or 4 months of pouring into the training, and it worked. And I have to say that my assistants were were faster, more proficient, and they even worked harder than my local assistant. They just couldn't do anything that required them being in person. And so, that being said, I was able to just offload a lot of the stuff that I didn't want to do anymore, and it just freed up a lot more time. And I feel like I have more time to actually work on my business rather than in my business. So let me can you go to the next slide? So that was my story. Can you go to the next slide? So if you don't have an assistant, you are the assistant. Okay, we probably all know that already. So I was a really good assistant for myself for a long time. Can you go to the next slide? So what is your time truly worth? This is what you gotta ask yourself. I mean, so I threw out the idea of $5 an hour because literally that's what I pay some of my assistants. So if you think that what you're doing is worth $5 an hour, which I don't think it is because minimum wage is way more than that. It's not. You should get an assistant. I mean, I feel that everything that I was doing wrong. I was stunting my own growth because I didn't use leverage. You could have passed a lot of the stuff, to delegate to somebody else. You feel more focused and organized. You could actually plan things for your, especially if you're growing a team and whatnot. You could plan things for them, and you have time to spend more time with friends and family and just your other hobbies. Can you go to the next slide? So wealthy people become wealthy because they understand the power of leverage. So I'll just read this. There are 3,600 seconds in an hour and 28,800 seconds in a full-hour workday. As Rich Dad Poor Dad author Robert Kiyosaki had pointed out, wealthy people become so because they understand leverage. And one of the things you can leverage is your time. We all have the same amount of hours in the day. So the practice you are about to take will determine the leverage you have with your day-to-day activities. I mean, literally, we all have the same amount of hours in the day. It's what you do at that time, of how effective you could be and productive you can be. Next slide. So here's the potential of what leverage can do as you develop, as a realtor, entrepreneur, and so forth. I mean, I was in the, I do it stage for a long time on the left. I learned the business and knew exactly what I was doing, and I just didn't want to, give anything out. I was just a me business. And then, I started going, documenting my systems and processes and started passing on stuff to other, multiple virtual assistants. And now I'm a we business. I still am a we business, by the way. But eventually, as you develop everything more, you can really take a step back, especially if you're building a team, and have it be a they business, where a lot of it is more like, it doesn't rely on you being there. So next slide. So why hire a VA in the Philippines? I kind of talked about this a little bit, but again, time zones are not a barrier. Like many of them are already working at call centers, working US-based hours. So that was amazing. And culture is not a barrier. Language is not a barrier. They all speak English. They all speak English. Some have stronger accents than others and whatnot, but they all speak English regardless. And the principle of currency arbitrage, the fact that that you're paying them $5 an hour is a blessing to them when they're working on in a corporate job and getting paid like around $3. They are so grateful. So next. So having an assistant frees up your time to do income-producing activities. So I just listed a few. So productive, income-producing activities. I mean, networking, doing listings or buyer presentations, prospecting and whatnot are the main things, that I'm thinking off the top of my head as income-producing, and everything else could potentially be delegated. Just such as that stuff. I'm not going to read it out. Next slide. So if you don't know what to delegate, it's like one of the things that somebody had told me was just do like a sticky note challenge. What I mean by that is like maybe for up to a week, take have a pack of sticky notes with you and like write down what you're doing and start what is that task that you did? Okay, I wrote an offer. I put that somewhere. I did a CMA. They put that somewhere. I showed a home, and so on and so forth. And then you'll have a list of tasks at the end of the week where you realize, what could I have done? Could somebody have done this for me? And that's how you start figuring out what you could start potentially outsourcing. Next slide. What can you outsource? You could probably take a photo of this if you want. I'm not going to read it. But these are some of the things that my assistants do for me. Yeah, I'm going to take a photo of that. No, but it's really cool. It's like felt that, you know, I feel that I'm able to just keep on top of so many more things and just not have to worry about it. Can you go to the next slide? Oh, where to find a virtual assistant. So what I found is there are different ways of finding virtual assistants. There's firms and there's direct hires. I think on the top I put virtual assistant firms. I'm not you know, advocating the two I just mentioned. I just know of them. The first one is called My Outdesk. The second one is VirtuDesk. They work for companies, and you may like that kind of company in the sense that they watch whatever is happening on the virtual assistant screen, and they have like software on it so you can see what's happening. They train them to a certain degree before you hire them. But to be honest, the training is decent, but you still have to train them on your specific ways because we all work differently. They sometimes have startup fees that you have to pay, but expect to pay at least $10 per hour with that type of firm, okay? Because the firm needs to make their profit as well. Direct hires are a lot cheaper, okay? Because you could get them potentially as low as $3 an hour. There's onlinejobs.ph is a great one. They have a website, just membership fee, I think it's $70 to $100 a month. There's Upwork, and then sourcevirtualstaff.com. That's actually me. I help people place VAs as well. But the thing with these direct hires is that a lot of the training now falls on you. So I can't say it's necessarily for everybody, because if you are so just tech savvy and you're not as good at training, then that might not be the first route to go. So I'll leave it at that. Can you go to the next slide? Minimum wage. So I didn't even know minimum wage. I had to Google it. So in 2022, the minimum wage in California for 25 or fewer employees will increase to $14 an hour from $13. And so here's the funny thing. It's like I literally have more, two full-time virtual assistants for the cost of minimum wage right now in California, and I just think it's mind-boggling. Go to the next slide, please. Oh, tech tools. So these are like some of the tech tools that I use with my VA. It's like, I'm really big on the Google Business Suite. I think they call it Google Workspace now. We use Google Voice, so my assistant has a Google Voice number, Bay Area based. We use Evernote. VPN, sometimes some of the things that we use require like my assistant to show that she's based out of the United States, and so we use a VPN, and I happen to use ExpressVPN. One of my assistants is a really good graphic designer, and we use Canva, and she's really good at it. You will definitely need a cloud-based type of file sharing, saving type of thing, and we use both Dropbox and Google Drive, but mainly Dropbox. Loom. Loom is, I just was introduced to Loom last year. I love it. Loom is just basically a screen sharing. You can do voiceover and talk and record your screen, but it's very instant because you just press the button, you start talking, and then hit stop. It uploads it to their server, and then it gives you the link in the same 10 seconds, and you can send it off. It's very good for just training your VAs or just explaining technical things, and we've used it a lot to create a library of standard operating procedures, SOPs, so that it's part of our training for other VAs that come on board. We use HomeSnap. We use also a task management software. We happen to use Notion, but there are other popular ones. And sometimes we use TeamViewer. TeamViewer is a remote software where if we both had TeamViewer and I logged on to you, and we were both on, I could remotely control your computer and move things around and whatnot. So that's what that does. Next. Oh, recommended book. So this book really just, right before I hired a virtual assistant, I actually read this book. It's called Who Know How by John Sullivan, and it's just made me really reevaluate of how how you should go about just growing as an entrepreneur. It's just like I sometimes felt like I needed to know everything first, and just to scale up and do everything. But that wasn't the case. It's just like you need to figure out who somebody could do something better than you, and if somebody can, you need that type of person. Just bring them onto your team. So this book was I can't stress how much I love this book, but it's something I definitely would recommend that you read. Next. So feel free to, my entire presentation is on that bit.ly link, that bit.ly/Dale Corpus leverage virtual staff. It's all my slides if you want to take a photo of this. And that was it. Does anybody have any questions? Diana.
How do you pay your virtual assistants? Because I know that a lot of people have concerns over like them having access to your accounts and stuff.
How would I pay them their salary, you mean?
Yeah.
So a lot of, I just jumped on the bandwagon with other folks. I know a lot of folks that have direct hire virtual assistants. Most people are using something called Wise Transfer, which is wise.com. It's just an ACH transfer from your US bank account, and it converts it for you into pesos, and it goes directly to their bank account. Yes?
Do you have to do any bookkeeping or tax for paying virtual assistant?
I'm so sorry, I couldn't hear you. Do I have to do any what?
Bookkeeping for expenses.
Bookkeeping. I do. Yeah, I do. Yeah.
For that platform?
I'm sorry.
For that particular platform, do you have to do all this taxing and stuff, or they will take care of everything for you?
Like taxes and stuff, like she said, like expenses at the end of the year, you write them off and stuff.
Okay, I got it. So are you talking, do I need to pay pay almost like Social Security and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, like employee.
You
don't need to pay any of that, which is a nice thing as well. When I had my W-2 assistant, I obviously did. So there was savings there as well. Yes.
How do you hold accountable or making sure that they do the job?
We have task management software, so I could kind of there's columns of to do, doing, and completed. I could see it in real time. So that's one of the things I put on there was a task management software. We happen to use something called Notion, but Monday.com or Asana is also is good. And I actually my virtual assistants, they're part of my team. They're in my weekly meetings. I talk to them and I Zoom with them pretty much every day. So it's just that I want them to feel part of the group culture. I want them to feel like they're here. And I feel that I just want to make sure that they're happy, that they'll stay for the long run. And I'll know when they're not doing something because it would show up that the task wasn't completed. Does that make sense? Yeah.
How many hours a week are they expecting at least?
It depends. I mean, for example, if you found somebody on onlinejobs.ph or Upwork, some of them don't necessarily want full time, but the ones that I have, they all wanted 40 hours a week. It was
So basically your virtual assistant is you hire them and they only work for you.
Correct.
And you expect them to be a standby from 8 to 5 US time.
Yeah, it's my I set the hours with them. I actually I even have one that works with me on the weekends full time too. Yeah.
So it's like a fixed monthly payment, pretty much.
Well, with me, we have time cards, so it's just sometimes there's overtime. Sometimes I do overtime with them.
All right.
Yeah. Oh, we're out.
Thank you, Dale.
Thanks.
Okay, so we're all not professional speakers. We're here to share, give back to the community, okay, and just sharing our